And so this is about freeing yourself from any kind of judgments that you've placed upon yourself. Because judgments have no real place in imagination. When you decide to imagine yourself differently inside, you change the mental you don't worry or think about the senses, or you don't think about the color of your skin, or you don't give yourself some judgment for something of the past. None of that really is taken into account. The mental man can change inside. It doesn't require a certain qualification. And so the world will always have you want to judge people off of their skin color, or judge them off of their anything, whatever they may be, even the amount of money they make or their intelligence. And we judge people. But in reality, we were actually judging ourselves. Neville had this story where this woman won the lottery, and he talked about how we don't show, he called it empathy. And he gave this example of the way he viewed empathy, which would be to see that a woman who won the lottery, he said that, you think to yourself, well, they're this religion, they're part of that religion, or they're this and that. How could they win the lottery? And essentially you're also saying, why not me? And so we create a judgment after something good that happens. And Neville would say, instead of celebrating, we kind of go into that, well, why would they get it if I remember them doing this in the past? And we think that it's unfair. But the imagination isn't judging off of what we think is fair. It doesn't judge off of the senses. This is more of a shadow. It doesn't judge after the shadow. And so when you go to imagine yourself and you're creating all these conditions and judgments, they're self-afflicted and they're self-done, because you're just creating judgments. You're creating conditions. You're creating fears inside. Once you see it that way, instead of the word thinking, you're thinking fears, say you're creating them, because you are. It's also true that we create inside ourselves. And we can create torments, or we can create things that we love. And we become what we fear, and we become what we love. So we have to start thinking in terms of thoughts of love. And Neville also said about how a chicken, you can have these chicken eggs and you want them to hatch, but there's 10 of them, but only 8 hatch. Well, he would just say that, these represent the things that you love, the things that you want to give birth to in your life, and you have 10 of them, but only 8 appear. He says you won't even notice that the 2 didn't appear. So the idea there is to constantly, or try to imagine, not as a work, but something you want to do, imagine more lovely things and do it all the time, and just start creating more and more lovely things inside yourself. And you won't even recognize if something doesn't even appear, because you'll have so much. And I want to give a simple exercise of what you could do to get yourself in a state of mind, or a new state of mind. And it's very simple, but all it takes is your curiosity. I want you to become curious about a different version of yourself. And it doesn't matter how slight the change is. It could just be a more confident version of yourself. It could be something that you want to change. And I want you to start asking it as if it's a separate person, a million questions. Just ask, how Neville says, what would it feel like? But also ask, like, how would I speak were I this type of person? And how would I enter a room? And how would I walk? And how would I think? What are the things I would speak to myself? How would I feel towards myself? How would I interact with the world? And how do they see reality? And you just become curious, and you answer these questions, and you start realizing that obviously you're the one answering them, and it's you. But the more you saturate your mind with it, the more you become one with it, the more you're thinking about things that you love. And that change in yourself will cause a change in how you start to behave. And it could happen instantly, but it's frequently going back to that state that I find is what creates a naturalness to be it. And you just become curious about what it would be like to be different. And that's really what Neville's asking, is when he says, how would I feel? It's a curiosity. It's not I have to make myself feel something, or I have to force myself to do something. It's actually a joy to do. It's something that is relaxing. It's something more freeing. And you just become curious about a different side of you. You don't judge yourself. You don't judge yourself for the state you're in right now. The state that you're in right now shouldn't really matter. What should matter is the state you want to be. and you focus on that, and you ask it a million questions. That's what I do. I will ask it a million things. How would they speak on a mic, and how would they feel towards themselves? How would they treat themselves? And I answer them as if it's my own answer, but I become curious about states for me to change into them. And I think that's what the question is, how would I feel, it really stems from. And when you start to accept that they're done, and you accept these lovely things, or you start to experience them inside, you're given a deep relief. And Neville would always say he felt a relief after he would imagine. And it wasn't a forced relief. It was an acceptance of it being done. He would rest in that. And he saw all of this as one big relief. And that is what you would feel when you wake up from a nightmare. You feel a deep relief that it was just a dream. And speaking of dreams, you'll start to see reality more like a live painting. And I've said that, you and I will paint still images, but the dreamer will dream a dream that feels alive. He paints an image that's alive and it's moving. And you're intimate with this dream or this painting. And you start to see more meaning behind life instead of seeing it from face value and judging off of intelligence and skin colors. And you see someone win the lottery and you think, well, but I'm more intelligent. It should come to me. Or why is it that they got it? And it's trying to judge reality instead of paying attention to what you're doing inside yourself. And you'll see that you see conditions because you're creating them. That's why you keep receiving them. It's truly an acceptance, and you want to imagine as if there's all the time in the world. And that's what Neville would do to cause him to get a deep rest. He would feel relief knowing that he has all the time in the world for it to come about. And so he never thought about time. He didn't condition his imaginings off of time. And he didn't condition his imaginings off of judgments of his past or things about himself. It didn't really matter. What mattered was becoming curious about a new state, asking it questions, trying to get to know it and try to be intimate with it. And you'll see how intimate, eventually you'll see that it is in you. That's how intimate you are with the state. That it really is there for your taking. And he also spoke about how when you start to take things in your mind, never feel that you're depleting it, because it's an infinite power. It's infinitely giving. And it doesn't give based off of appearances. So if I feel that I'm being judged off of the appearances, I have the wrong God. I'm believing in a false one. It doesn't judge me after my appearances. And so really the outside doesn't really affect my ability to repent or change radically inside. And that is what we're doing. We are changing the mental us to see if there's a change in reality. It's really a test to see how intimate we are with this thing we call reality. And we no longer will feel so separate from it, but we'll bring everything back to more of a unity. And I truly believe, because I've experienced this, that if we don't, William Blake said, those who do not live in love will be subdued by fear. I truly believe that. And I've seen it in my life. But when I take the idea of living in love, I think of living as from within. So I have to start living in love within, or my mind or myself inside of me will be subdued by fear. I'll start thinking of fearful things. And then you find yourself in a cycle that you can't get out of, and you don't see that it's a self-imprisonment. And so you and I will start to free ourselves from the inside out, regardless of appearances. We no longer judge with them. We take a different approach to the same issues or the same reality. We go from the inside out. And that's really Neville's message, is to start there. He spoke that you may not have a dime, but in imagination you have much. And you take that attitude everywhere. And become, again, curious about the one who has much in you. How would they be? And it's yourself, but separate it to give it more clarity. And then when you start answering the questions honestly, you start to become it. And there you are, becoming what you love. And so we always become things. We just have to direct the attention or the nature, or change the nature of ourselves or the nature of our mental environment. And we start to become our environment. We start mentally. And so you might have not said what you wanted to say in the day. You say it with, you make the mental you say it inside. At the end of the day, you revise it. or something didn't go as planned, you don't judge after the appearance, you judge after the mental eyes that see it fulfilled. It's showing you that it's done, and you don't concern yourself with anything else. And then you find a deep rest that you're believing in the one power. And if you wish to speak to me about Neville's teachings, I am doing one-on-one talks for a fee that I find reasonable. And if you're interested and you want to find more information, just go to the description and email me. Thanks for listening, and try to experiment with getting into a state.